Namaste to all our viewers joining us from all across the world on Amway Presents International Day of Yoga 20, powered by Ozone Organic Advantage. I am Shloka, your host for today evening, and I also have with me my co-host Nidhi Kumar. We also acknowledge our event producers union, Red Carpet Entertainers, supported by Ministry of Ayush, Eat Right Foundation, International Naturopathy Organization, Titli Jaipur, and powered by Ozone Organic Advantage. Our distribution partners and co-hosts, the Nehru Center, the High Commission of India, Mystics of India, Sadhguru, and Green Dream Foundation and Spiritual TV. And together, we'd like to fervently welcome all of you on International Day of Yoga.
Pranam.
Yoga means union. Yoga, or the yogic way of living, since time immemorial, has been entrenched in every facet of our lives. So, in our part of the culture, marriages weren't just seen as marriages, but yoga. Careers or jobs weren't just seen as that, but yoga. Children, bearing a child, raising them wasn't just that, but yoga. So, why was yoga such an integral part of our lives? Today, let's re examine some of the lost dimensions of yoga. We have with us individuals who are insignias of yoga and the yogic way of living, from devoting their lives to being in yoga to helping others achieve the very same. It is with great love and reverence I'd like to welcome the panelists for today. Nidhi ji, if you can please do the honors.
Mohanji, a globally renowned humanitarian who has dedicated his life towards the earth and service of all beings, with a conviction that the world should be a better place because we have lived here. Namaste, Mohanji. Welcome. Acharya Sri Pundrik Goswami ji, who will be joining us in a while, the young and highly famed Bhakti yogi and Vedic scholar who has been delivering eloquent discourses from the age of 7 years. This Oxford alumnus has garnered millions of devotees all over the world. Pandit Vamadeva Shastri, Dr. David Frawley, a Padma Bhushan awardee and an author of over 40 books, he has contributed extensively towards Vedas, Vedanta, Yoga, Ayurveda, and Vedic astrology. Welcome to the program, sir. Sadhvi Bhagwati Saraswati ji, a PhD from Stanford. She's a renowned spiritual leader living in Parmarth Niketan Ashram for 24 years, engaged in many spiritual and humanitarian programs. Dear guests, it is such a pleasure, privilege, and honor to have you here with us today. Thank you for joining us once again. And to all the viewers, as you watch, we would request you to share this video so maximum people can be benefited from this. My first question to you, Dr. Frawley, where does it all begin? If you can briefly take us through the genealogy and the genesis of yoga through these centuries. Who better than you?
Yes, yoga is our own deepest self. All life is yoga. Yoga originates with the creation of the universe itself. Yoga is the teaching, the practice, the application of the wisdom of the cosmic mind and deeper intelligence. Yoga is at the root of world civilization. It is the root of Indian civilization. And it is found at the very origins of Indian civilization in the Vedas, the great mantras of the rishis. And it is there, even archaeologically, we discover the origins of yoga in the ancient ruins, Harappan culture, Vedic culture, Saraswati River. Much work is being done in those particular areas. And the rishis of the Vedas were great yogis. The mantras of the Vedas, like Gayatri, are great inspirations to yoga. Yoga then developed through the Vedas into Upanishads, where we have the yogic practice of self-inquiry, inner knowing, self-realization, explained with great clarity. Yoga then manifests in the personal form of Sri Krishna, the Yoga Avatara in the Bhagavad Gita and also Mahabharata. Yoga also then takes its compilation in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali sometime later. It is, however, pervading all the Dharmic traditions and teachings. Then yoga develops through Yoga Shastras, Yoga Upanishads, various branches of yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Shaivite Yoga, Vaishnava Yoga, in many different forms, all the knowledge, devotion, practice, karma, everything. And then over time, yoga spread, of course, with all the Dharmic traditions throughout Asia, throughout the world. And we had then, and even in later times, the great Nath yogis, the Siddha Yoga, and the Hatha Yoga. And then we had the great Swami Vivekananda, who shared this great yoga tradition globally, starting in 1893 in Chicago. And the global renaissance of yoga coming to the present day, with great yogis from India traveling all over the world, sharing the wisdom of yoga and becoming the gurus and teachers of many millions, from the leaders of society to the common people. And then we have the yoga as part of India's independence movement, its cultural renaissance, great yogis like Sri Aurobindo behind that movement. And then we've also had this global movement of yoga, International Yoga Day, and we have yoga practiced by millions throughout the world, starting with the basic asana practices, extending to pranayama, mantra, meditation. And yoga is taking us forward into another century. Yoga is taking us forward into a new planetary age for humanity. And it is essential that we bring this yoga tradition forward. Particularly today, we have so much conflict, unhappiness, suffering in the world. Also, we have this pandemic going on. Yoga can connect us to the inner well springs of prana, to our deeper harmony with the environment, the yoga of ecology. It can connect us to world peace, unity, and allow us to use our technology in the best possible way for the evolution of consciousness and intelligence and well-being and harmony in humanity, rather than just simply the technology for the outer development. So let's welcome a new age of yoga for the 21st century and International Yoga Day as the day of the year that connects us to that aspiration. Hari Om.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Sathiji, my question to you is what is yoga and what is not yoga? You know, when we talk about yoga in contemporary times, we mostly see glamorous images of people, celebrities, models, and different kinds of poses. It is even happening at the competitive levels. It is happening at the state and the national level championships. People are getting medals for being the best at yoga. So, yoga has largely been perceived as a performance, as a sporting activity, as a recreational activity, or at best a health activity. So, we see a new style of yoga erupting every day, whether it is aerobics yoga, power yoga, aerial, hot, there is even beer and puppy yoga. People are using all kinds of inversions, props, heat to be in yoga. So my question to you, Sadhiji, is what is the correct kind of yoga to pursue, and what do you make of this kind of evolution, modernization, reinvention, or if I may even say distortion?
So, as you mentioned in your very beginning introduction, and as Vamadevji said so beautifully, yoga is union on the deepest, highest, and most full and complete level. When we look at the scriptures that we commonly talk about as scriptures of yoga, there isn't a mention there. You look at, for example, the Bhagavad Gita, and there's nothing in the Bhagavad Gita that says that done with a straight leg is yoga, that done with a bent leg is not yoga, or turning to the right is yoga, turning to the left is not yoga. Yoga is that which unites, and yoga is that out of union. And so that's the science, the art, the expression of yoga. In the Bhagavad Gita, in fact, Lord Krishna speaks about so much, 700 verses of yoga, but it's, what is it? It's bhakti yoga, devotion, love. It's jnana yoga, wisdom, knowledge. It's karma yoga, the way that we act moving toward union, as well as the way that we act when we are rooted in union. There's no mention in all of the 700 verses of a particular posture being the right posture for yoga or not. In fact, the only mention even of asana actually is that upon which we sit in the Gita. And so when we realize that core fullness of yoga, we realize that it's not about, oh, if it's done at this temperature, it's yoga. If it's done at that temperature, it's not. Or if we do it vertically, it is. Horizontally, it's not. All of this fighting these days, all of this, sadly, separation in the name of yoga, this tragic irony of in the name of union, how many different separate lineages we have, beautiful, no problem, as long as they recognize they're part of a cohesive whole. But nonetheless, what you've mentioned is so true. So many different lineages are saying, this is right, that's not right. This is the best, that's not. Even in what Sage Patanjali gave us, he explained so beautifully, Sthira Sukham Asana. That which is stable, joyful, that is asana. Again, not that which has ropes or doesn't have ropes, has a prop, doesn't have a prop. It's never been about that. And so, yeah, you're right. Today, there's so many different types of yoga. Almost every day, somebody sends some kind of funny thing from online of, yoga in this way or yoga in that way. But for me, on a personal level, I've got such a deep faith in yoga, in the science, the art, the practice, the depth, the fullness of yoga, that whatever way you enter it, you get caught up in that stream. And so even if you enter it because you've got back pain or knee pain, or you enter it because you want to lose some weight or lower your cholesterol, don't worry. The river of yoga is so powerful. It's going to sweep you up. I know so many people who have entered yoga because of some physical reason and suddenly find themselves chanting, find themselves reading scriptures, find themselves introspecting deeply on the nature of the self. And so I'm not worried about yoga competitions. We all realize, of course, that it's not a competition in the fullness of yoga. You can't have a competition of meditation or samadhi. We're looking at asanas. Maybe we're looking at pranayama, maximum. But mostly we're looking at asanas. We're looking at strength and flexibility in the body. And that's okay. Yes, you're right. It would be better termed physical fitness, better termed exercise, sometimes better termed acrobatics. But if through this we are bringing people into the river of yoga, I'm okay with that, because that river is going to give them the fullness, regardless of how they enter into it.
So true. I think it's a beautiful perspective, Sadhiji. Mohanji, my question to you, when we talk about the experiential dimension of yoga, yoga is essentially an experiential reality. Yoga is union. One can't do union, one has to be in union. Similarly, one can't do yoga, one has to be in yoga. So one can't really philosophize, intellectualize, reinvent, read about yoga. You have to be in yoga to experience it. This experiential dimension of yoga has unfortunately completely eroded in today's day and age. So, if you can talk a little bit about the experiential side of yoga.
Thank you. As Dr. Frawley and Sadhviji has already explained, the dimensions can never be explained. Yoga has huge, numerous dimensions. And the sanskar of Bharat, the tradition of Bharat, all the Vedas, Upanishads, Puranas, Shrutis, Smritis, all put together is yoga. In summing up everything together is yoga. Like if you crush everything and make a juice, it's one sentence, tat tva masti, you are that. So yoga is bringing you to yourself. It's a reminder. And as you have asked, the experiential side, we have distinctly two sides, which is practical every day. One is the pratiti side, means we versus what we see or what we interact with, means something outside of us. Second is the anubhuti side, that means what is always being experienced as you the experiencer. So end of the day, whatever we do, it is for experience sake. And there are only two aspects of existence. If you sum it up, it's one is experience, one is expression. What you express is what you are. You cannot express anything more than that or anything beyond. But what you experience is also as per your vasana, your inclinations and tendencies, which are inbuilt. And like that, we have instinct. Instinct cannot be avoided in life because this is inbuilt. And then inclination and tendencies plus desires. All these put together, this is the complex character of human existence, or this is how human beings exist. So when you, any activity, see, there is an activity and awareness. They are two distinct things. When awareness is very high, activity is not significant. When we are extremely active, awareness eclipses itself, or it eclipses awareness. So we have to be very, very clear and very aware. These are all guidelines for connecting to ourselves. That is what is the whole systems are to remind us who we are and to connect us to ourselves, to be aware. So that is why the yoga is, if it is not experienced, it's not blind activity. When we go mechanically on activity, we lose awareness. And once, that's the whole thing about life. Extreme awareness, when both stabilizes, we become Buddha. So to attain that state, we have to cut down on activity. If we cannot cut down on activities, what we have to do is that be aware of the activity. So that is the experiential side. That means you detach from the activities and be aware that it's happening through you, not that you are doing. So doingness shifts to beingness slowly. It happens. So the gross aspect, physical body, then the subtle aspect, immediate subtle aspect, which is the mind, intellect, ego aspect, and then the ati sukshma, the beyond the subtle, which is the activating aspect, which is consciousness and soul. So to be arriving to there, you got to transcend all this. Once you transcend all this, you reach a state of absolute peace. We call it extreme samadhi state, and samadhi also has been dissected, but samadhi state, and that's a state which is very natural for us. So yoga means being natural, yoga means being aware, and yoga means being you.
How lovely. Dr. Frawley, another question for you. The goal of yoga is one, but there are different paths to achieve it.
We have Pundrikji joining us. Acharyaji will be joining us.
नमस्कार to everybody. I'm sorry there was some
नमस्ते नमस्ते योग दिवस की आपको सभी को शुभकामनाएं, बधाई आपको पुंडरिक जी. थैंक यू फॉर जॉइनिंग अस. आपके बारे में हमने ऑडियंस को, व्यूअर्स को सब बता दिया. तो पहला सवाल मैं आपसे लेती हूँ पुंडरिक जी. You come from the Bhakti tradition. The common misnomer is that bhakti, arti, praying, chanting, and going to temples is considered religion and not yoga, which it actually is. Bhakti yoga is often confused with religiosity. If you can explain the bhakti way of yoga and why it is a yogic process.
पुंजी जी आपको आवाज आ रही है ना? The audio is clear?
There is some technical issue, Shlokaji, some network issue, but I could get a little bit what Nidhi has said. I think one can.
मैं क्वेश्चन फिर से बोलूं, दोहराओ। भक्ति योग के बारे में जानना चाहते हैं पुंडरिक जी। हाउ भक्ति योग इज कंफ्यूज्ड विद रिलीजियोसिटी। भक्ति वे ऑफ योग आपसे जानना चाहेंगे।
निधि जी, आई थिंक आप नेक्स्ट सवाल कर सकते हैं जब तक
हाँ,
ऑडियो ठीक हो जाए।
So, Dr. Frawley, the goal of yoga is one, but there are different paths to achieve it. What are these different kinds of yoga, and how do we know which yoga is meant for me or my sister or my friend or my family or my brother?
Yes. Well, today people talk about different types of yoga. They mean different styles of asana. So that's only at the level of exercise and health and outer aspects of yoga. When we talk about the different forms of yoga, different branches of yoga, traditionally, we mean the jnana yoga, yoga of knowledge, bhakti yoga, yoga of devotion, karma yoga, yoga of action, other special yogas, raja yoga, hatha yoga, prana yoga, nada yoga, laya yoga, mantra yoga. We can go on and on with these. But the first few are most important. Jnana yoga, yoga of knowledge, all yoga is about knowing ourselves, but there are those who will more specifically follow a path of self-inquiry, self-study, deeper meditation, largely the Advaitic or non-dualistic or Vedantic path like Raman Maharshi or all the great gurus, Adi Shankara, all of that. There are a few other types as well. Bhakti yoga, there are so many forms of bhakti or devotion, so many deities, Ishta Devatas, you can take your pick, Rama, Krishna, Shiva, Ganesha, Hanuman, so many forms of Devi, Sundari, Kali, Lakshmi, Saraswati. So that richness of devotion, I think, is also there in the yoga tradition and in an unparalleled way, and gives quite a different sampradayas, lineages relative to Vaishnavism, Shaivism, all the Shakti traditions, so many. So you have the choices there. Karma yoga, action, service, helping others, leading a dharmic life, Ayurvedic lifestyle. There's many seva you can do. Specific Hatha yoga traditions, there's different aspects of Kundalini yoga, Tantric yoga, Tantra mantra, Yantra, Raja yoga, change of consciousness, Yoga Sutras, Sankhya yoga. And there's so many yoga gurus. It's not just a question of the teachings. There are great gurus you can connect to today, living gurus today, traditions going back for centuries, sampradayas, some going back thousands of years, other sampradayas fairly modern, Ramakrishna Vedanta. You have Swami Narayan, you have Sadguruji, you have Shri Shri, you have Paramarth, so many. So you choose them by following your heart, following your wisdom, searching within, exploring yoga, sharing yoga, being involved with yoga sanghas, visiting temples, visiting ashrams, and you will definitely find your way if you open your inner being, study the teachings, do the mantras, take one step forward every day in some way to increase your practice of yoga, and that will eventually connect you to all the teachers and teachings you need and the forms you need. But be consistent, follow a path, give it your full attention, your goal of life, and yoga will take you beyond life and death. Hari Om.
Satviji, my next question to you is on the benefits of yoga. Unfortunately, the physical healing and the therapeutic aspects of yoga has gotten so much attention. Um, People would like to mention join yoga class either to lose weight, get fit, cure their backache, diabetes, depression these days. Given that there are many health and therapeutic benefits of yoga, but is it just that? What is the real benefit, aim, or objective of yoga?
So, yoga, as we've been saying, is union. Yoga is that which unites us with the truth of who we are. And so the benefit of that cannot be overstated. That is actually the purpose of our life. In our human birth, with the consciousness that it's believed only humans have, we have that ability to actually attain the state of moksha, of freedom, of divine oneness, of truth, of union. And so the benefit of yoga is actually the benefit of attaining the highest purpose of your life. Dealing with a backache or a knee problem or losing some weight is certainly wonderful because we also have a body. And of course, the nuances of the body and the pain it experiences, the difficulties it experiences, the ailments it may experience, they impact our awareness. But to relegate yoga as some sort of just physical healthcare system is to deprive ourselves of the possibilities, the benefits of actually a system through which our highest goal in this birth is attained. Yoga, through all of the different systems, through even if we just look at the yoga of Patanjali, if we just look even at the 8 limbs of yoga, the benefits even just within those 8 limbs span every aspect of my life, from how I interact in the world, from my relationships in the world, my relationship with myself, to my relationships with others, to my physical health, to my mental health, to the calmness and stillness of the mind, to the opportunity of touching that state of pure awareness, of pure consciousness, into the experience of oneness, love in the heart, not love of just one separate being over here and another separate being over there, but the love that through dhyan and then samadhi, in which the lover, the beloved, and the love become one. The meditator, the object of meditation, and the act of meditation become one. And so the benefits are on every level, from the most physical to the mental, the psychological, to the deepest spiritual benefits. You know, these days, lastly, these days as we're suffering from so much, ranging from depression and anxiety, suicides, addictions, to problems in our society, whether it's rising rates of divorce, whether it's communal violence, whether it's problems between nations, between cultures, between races, between religions, war, terrorism, whether it's that which is happening with our environment, destruction, climate change. The core of all of those is this myth of separation. And so, yoga, as that which actually brings us the truth of union, is actually the answer to everything that ails us on every level today. So, the benefits are as infinite as the union to which we dive and bathe.
How beautiful. Very well explained. It's kind of therapeutic hearing you. मोहन जी आपसे जानना चाहूंगी अब लिबरेशन, सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन, enlightenment, samadhi, mahasamadhi. What do they mean? Where do these feature in yoga and how can they be attained? I'm
Mohanji,
asking all enlightened people, please enlighten us.
Mohanji's mic is muted.
Mohanji, you'll have to unmute your mic, yes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, can you hear me? That's a very huge subject. In fact, I'll try to bring it as simple as possible. Self-realization is nothing but realizing what is already sitting in you. It's not anything from outside. So outside is only guidance, but at some point in time, in the depth of silence, you realize what exactly is running your show. What is the only peaceful aspect of yourself or only the real aspect of yourself? Body is a shell and all the other faculties are just for experiencing existence. So when at some point in time you realize that there is an Atma Tattva, that's the principle called soul, which is running the show, that realization stabilizes at some, first it's an information. Somebody tells you, some books tell you, but that's not your experience. When that becomes your experience, we call it enlightenment, self-realization. So that's already sitting, everybody have the same ways of reaching. I mean, people have, like Dr. Frawley just explained, so many different paths to reach the same spot, same position. And we have to reach there some point in time. So this is that. And Samadhi has been detailed and explained in a very detailed way by Vivekananda as well. I usually like Vivekananda because he's extremely practical. You know, no beating around the bush. I like direct stuff. So he said there is Savitarka Samadhi and Nirvitarka Samadhi. You have a desire, it needs fulfillment, you are in peace for some time. Then it goes to Savichara Samadhi and Nirvichara Samadhi. That means you have a thought, and the thought is also compelling, but thoughts are there. See, even in Nirvitarka Samadhi, you have a desire, but at some point in time, you don't need fulfillment. Means desire stands alone, and then it shifts to vichara, the thought. The thoughts happen, but the thoughts are not sufficiently powerful for activating a fulfillment. Then it comes to a state where mind becomes still, because the thoughts are not enough, that do not have enough power to bring you forth. And it's usually says after Nirvichara Samadhi is nothing but a state where there are no activity in mind. Then you cannot go back. That's what they say. That's like a threshold. Then comes Savikalpa Samadhi. Still you have an experience of the body. You remember, or you're reminded there is a body, and there is an experience of the body. There is an experience of the identities. That means in minimal state, mind exists. Ego, which is the seat of the ownership of activity, almost dies. Then intellect, which is analysis, almost extinct. But you're still aware of your existence. Then it comes to another state where you are not even aware of your body. Then there is only one state, total dissolution. That is Nirbija Samadhi. Not even the seed exists. That means you're totally. So this is the states of Samadhi. Now, Mahasamadhi is a conscious exiting with consciousness, or conscious exit of your body. That means you are already established in a state of complete dissolution, and then just a matter of time you exit from the top, and there you still there. That means there is no death, it's only expansion. You know, then by the time you have become immortal, you have stabilized yourself, nothing outside. So this is what I'm saying. There is a world outside all the time, and when we interact with the world, we are producing an identity that completely collapses. The outside world remains outside. Outside world is about places, people, and materials. That has no value. And inside, you are fully occupied inside, means you have settled down inside on the reality. And when you settle down inside on the reality, you become one unit. That means mind, intellect, ego, and body are in alignment. You are all completely settled inside. That's the only place to settle down, actually. All the external settling are all just illusions, for some time to keep the body, no problem. But internally, when you settle down completely, and then the external world, well, you can operate in any way you like, but then you are not that. That always comes, and any of the things outside stays outside. You're not carrying it home. So in this level, you are liberated at existence. While living, you are liberated, and then while leaving, you are definitely liberated. So this is in nutshell the whole thing, because within this time I cannot explain more.
But very well put. Lovely words of wisdom goes to all our viewers joining in now. We are on Amway Presents International Day of Yoga. Please do share this video as you want so that maximum people can be benefited.
Thank
Amway's
you.
International Day of Yoga, powered by Ozone. पुंडरिक जी, आपसे वही सवाल मैं फिर से लेना चाहूंगी, दोहराती हूँ फिर से। आपकी आशा करती हूँ आपकी माइक का सारे प्रॉब्लम्स ठीक हो गए होंगे। पुंडरिक जी, the common misnomer is that bhakti, aarti, chanting, going to temples is considered religion, by a lot of people, and not yoga. Bhakti yoga is also confused with religiosity. If you can explain the bhakti way of yoga and why it is the yogic process, आपसे अच्छा ये कोई नहीं explain कर सकता पंडित।
सबसे पहले सबको नमस्कार मेरी तरफ से, and I'm very sorry.
नहीं।
There was so much technical problem. I'm in Vrindavan, so lovely to see you, Sadhvi ji, and Dr. David also. So good to see you. And I'm a worshipper of Mohan, so also good to see Mohan ji. So Nidhi ji and Shloka ji, thanks for inviting me again. Of course, आपने कहा सारी problem solve हो गई होगी, because Mohan ji was talking about samadhi, and when you reach to the stage of samadhi, definitely all the problems automatically solve. So as we were talking about the yoga, of course, one need to understand that you are consist of 4 aspects. When we say you or I, there are 4 things is there. Similar, if you drive a car has a physical body, it has a engine, it has a driver, and then it also has a fuel. The 4 things are extremely required. If one of them is not there, you cannot drive the car. Even if you have a nice limousine, but then if it doesn't have a fuel, you just cannot go ahead. If you have a sporty body of a car, but the engine is of only I would say Maruti 800, nothing would happen. So similarly, the whole concept consists of 4 things. One is your physical body. Second, engine, which we say engine is your mind. Driver is your intellect, and the fuel is your soul. So I would say inclining all the 4 aspects of life, this is what considered to be as yoga. Putting them into one line. Physical yoga it doesn't happen on the body, it happens through the body, I would say. It starts through your body, but then I would say joining it and inclining your mind, then intellect, and then connecting it to the soul, and then ultimately to the supreme soul. As you were talking about bhakti yoga, so arti, you're going to the temple. Definitely in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna beautifully explained the whole chapter of bhakti yoga, and there are many explanations of bhakti yoga existing. It's mostly, I would say, the most powerful aspects in your identity is your mind. Of course, they all 3 are always changing. Body is always changing, your mind is also changing, and your intellect is also changing as soon as your experiences change. But your atman, your soul, is always permanent, and it is same. It is the oneness state. So, but in those external parts, the mind is the most powerful. If you see the whole world now, it's a game of mind. We are talking about mental health. Mind is the most powerful. Arjuna also says, Chanchalam hi manah Krishna pramati balabhadratam. And I so agree with that. That mana is so chanchal. It is so chanchal. Even after gaining so much intellect, sometime your mind plays around with you. So devotion, bhakti yoga, devotion. If you just look at this word, devotion, it consists of another beautiful word which we call as emotions. So mind is full of emotions when you play around with your emotions and through some external aspects, when you connect your mind to the supreme soul externally, that's how some bhakti yoga practices are happening. If you do a arati, but through that arati, through that mechanism, if you are connecting to your soul and then supreme soul, that arati would become a yoga. Even if you are doing a specific asan, but you are not connected to that source, that asan will not be a yoga, it would just be an asan. So yoga is similarly the connection, union, as Sadhviji said. I could just hear two, three words at that time, so I don't know what everybody was saying. But as she beautifully said, Patanjali says yoga anusashanam, discipline. In Bhakti Yoga, there are so many disciplines, and yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Patanjali also talks about it. So Bhakti Yoga similarly says, manmana bhavamad bhakto madhya jimam namaskuru mame vaishyasi sattvante pratijani priyosi me. Sri Krishna in Bhagavad, who is a Yogeshwara, who beautifully explained that through your mind, concentrate your mind or offer your mind to me, manmana bhavamad bhakto madhya jimam namaskuru. Because a mind can control your intellect very easily. It is possible, but it's a little difficult for your intellect to control the mind. So if you are interested into that field of yoga, then of course bhakti yoga is for you. And then there are 9 aspects of those bhakti yoga. Dr. Frawley was explaining about the different parts, but majorly there are, we call it 9 bhaktis. So there is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam,
क्या बात
Sakhyam, and Atmanivedanam. These are 9 aspects of bhakti yogas. So it starts through listening, because ears are something which goes deep into you. You know, ear doesn't know how to express. Your eyes knows how to express also, and how to take things inside. There are 2 ways when you look into the eyes. There are always 2 ways. You breathe in and breathe out. Even mouth can sometimes vomit or speak, and also mouth can also eat. But ear is one sense which doesn't know how to express. That's why in Bhakti Yoga, Shravanam, hearing or listening to who are a real Bhakti yogi, or the intellectuals, or the enlightened soul. That's how the process starts. And I thank to this whole program, because people are hearing. That's the first thing they're hearing about yoga, Shravanam. So we have an example of Parikshita. He's a king Parikshit, who just heard and achieved that stage. He could able to bring his prana through all the chakras and could deliver himself through Brahmarandra. Then Kirtanam, for Kirtanam we had Shukadeva. For Smaranam we have Prahalad. So there are different examples of all these aspects of bhakti. So doing arati or doing darshan is somehow one of the aspect of these 9 parts of bhakti.
इतना सुंदर आपने बताया, मतलब मजा आ गया। एक छोटा सा इससे ऐड करूंगी सवाल, क्योंकि आप थोड़ा देर से आए थे। योग साधना इज द ओनली वे टू गेट लिबरेटेड, पुंडरीक जी?
Sorry, I cannot hear it properly.
योग साधना, योग साधना
जी.
जिस तरह के आपने अभी बताए हैं, इज दैट द ओनली वे टू गेट लिबरेटेड?
I would say, see, you don't have to connect two words. Personally, my experience is साधना का मतलब होता है जो प्रैक्टिसर, जो प्रैक्टिशनर है, the one who is practicing, and yoga is a union. So a person who is practicing a union, this is what yoga sadhana. But
नहीं
now
नहीं,
it
आई वुड लाइक टू
depends.
ऐड टू दिस पुंडरिक जी। मेरा सवाल ये है कि अगर कोई 100% डिवोटेड है, मान लीजिए
जी,
एक गायक है और बहुत अच्छा सिंगर है, और वो अपने काम को बहुत उस तरह से करता है, अल्टीमेट भगवान के लिए गाता है। सो इज दैट ऑल्सो मीन्स टू शेडिंग द बॉडी, या जैसे कोई गौ सेवा करता है, या cooking with all your heart, painting, writing, is that also some kind of a yoga or union if you do that with devotion, or is it different from sadhana?
no, no, it is. In Bhakti Yoga, everything can become sadhana. That's why we cook so much and offer it to the God. We have
Hmm.
chapan bhog. There's so much cooking happening here. You can cook, and if you just connected to that supreme soul, if you do it from the deepest core of your
Hmm.
heart and not just for yourself, devotion also means not just doing it for yourself. If you just have a bigger perspective, you are joining everybody with you, and then ultimately to that supreme soul you want to make somebody else happy, so that selfless attitude comes to you. That's how bhakti starts. We have Surdas, Tulasidas, these kind of singers are there in bhakti yoga. So music was easily, music is such a great medium.
Hmm.
In bhakti
वो
yoga
है
we have so much music.
वो
In
है ना,
bhakti yoga there's so
कौन
much
कहता
cooking.
है, वो आपके सामने ही हमने पिछली बार भी कहा था ना, कौन कहता है
हाँ,
भगवान खाते नहीं मीरा की तरह, तुम खिलाते नहीं बुलाते नहीं।
बस
इतना
बस बस
प्यारा
बस
गीत है, वो
मी,
बहुत ही सुंदर है।
मीरा 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 ही चाहिए। मीरा ने गा गा के भगवान को पा लिया। हमारे यहाँ
हाँ।
कहते हैं कि जब भक्ति जीवन में आ जाती है तो ज्ञान और वैराग्य प्रकट होता है। तो दो शब्द हैं हिंदी के, जन्म लेना
हम्म।
और प्रकट होना, दो चीजें हैं। जिसने जन्म लिया है उसकी मृत्यु निश्चित है। तो जब
हम्म।
ज्ञान जन्म लेता है और अगर उसको अभिमान का बुढ़ापा लग जाए तो उसकी मृत्यु हो जाएगी। पर जो चीज
हम्म।
प्रकट होती है, समथिंग विच अपीयर्स, जो प्रकट होती है वो डिसॉल्व तो हो सकती है पर वो कभी डाई नहीं हो सकती। तो भक्ति
हम्म।
में तो ज्ञान और वैराग्य प्रकट होता है और वो स्वतः सार्वभौम रूप से। कबीर ने बहुत छोटे से शब्दों में, बहुत सामान्य से शब्दों में वो ज्ञान और वैराग्य की विवेचनाएं पैदा कर दी हैं। कितनी अद्भुत बात की जो मोहन जी भी अभी कह रहे थे, तुम बोलो पोथी
हम्म।
की लेखी, मैं बोलूं आखन की देखी। सच अ
हम्म।
ग्रेट सिंग ऑफ कबीर कि आप केवल लिखी हुई बोल रहे हो पर मैं अपने एक्सपीरियंस की बोल रहा हूं। पोथी पढ़त जग मुआ, पंडित भया न कोई, ढाई आखर प्रेम के, पढ़े सो पंडित होई। ये भक्ति योग का सिद्धांत है।
बहुत सुंदर। श्लोका, आपका सवाल।
Mohanji, my question to you is, yoga changes the way of your being because it is challenging our tendencies, it is challenging our karmic structure on the physical, mental, emotional, on the energy planes. So when this unshackling or transcendence of karmic structure happens, the sense of self begins to loosen up. What I call as myself, my likes and dislikes, they begin to disintegrate or dismantle. So, if you can talk about karma and the role of yoga in overcoming karma.
The the thrust of karma or the karmic path, as Pundrik ji also explained just now, the whatever whatever is born must die. So the whole span of life is defined by the flow of karma in the linear way. But also we should understand that there is a transition and transcendence also, like a Yoga Vasishta has said, that there are parallel realities. Like when somebody asked Ramana Maharshi, if I die now, in 2 years' time, will I take a birth? He said, for sure, you can take a birth. But probably at that time, you will be 70 years old. So that means there are so many things happening parallelly, and at the same time, the time and the space as we perceive it in a linear way has only relevance in this level where we look, means how we see or how we perceive. but the existence is much more dimensional. That is why Mahavishnu told the person who was meditating, told, you do not even understand illusion, then how about you understanding truth? So illusion itself is so vast because time and space are interchangeable and expandable, contractible. So we are existing in that dimension, in a large realm. So in the linear way, it's very simple. You have a desire and you ask for fulfillment. Then how do you come out of it? Because the moment you have a desire, you ask for fulfillment, and then another desire comes, then another fulfillment, and this is like a big trap. It's an ego trap because we never get satisfied. We are always in a trap. Then what comes next is pretension, that we pretend to be happy, but are we really happy? The happiness happens only when we have nothing to do with the world outside, when we are so contented with the world inside, and everything happens outside becomes our expression, whether we like it or not. And that's exactly what happens every day. But the desires do not just get extinct like that. One leads to the other. But at some point in time, awareness rises over it. Like Pundarik ji now just now talked about Bhakti Yoga. When your focus is on a supreme entity like Lord Krishna or Shiva, when your full focus is on something which is very, very different in dimension, then automatically an expansion happens inside. That way detachment takes place automatically. And when I was practicing, I was at one point, I used to come to Himalayas very often, and I thought that's what's going to help me. At one point in time, this question came: you're going to a place where there is peace, but you're not taking it home. Peace stays there, but you are going away, and then you are back to square one. That was like a blow on my face. I was actually wasting my time looking for something in a place or a situation, in a particular situation. That's the only time when I started looking at what exactly is silence. Like a wave, sound is coming out of silence and it goes back to silence. So silence is more permanent than sounds. I was in the world of sounds too much, and then at some point in time, I realized that that's temporary, and then I started focusing on the silence. It takes time, and this external things always pulls you back, always pulls you, because that's habitual. You're habituated to things outside, people, places, relationships, possessions and positions. They are all taking you outside all the time. But at some point in time you realize, oh, that's not giving me permanent happiness. But there is somebody who's also happy when there is nothing outside. At the time of sleep, when you wake up, you feel happy. And I had no gadgets, I had nothing outside to make me happy. So this was a very clear feeling for me, or expression, or a inspiration for me to stabilize inside. Then after that, you become a magnet, means alignment happens automatically. So to sum it up, what I'm saying is that no shortcut, because we have created patterns over lifetimes. Sitting here now, we are a bundle of patterns, and these patterns won't just go away, and we won't allow them to go away. We are very, very reluctant to leave them because they are binding us and we bind them. It's mutual. And like what happens now, the corona situation, so many people, as Sadhviji said, went into depression, went into suicidal feelings. Why? Because of the over dependency on things outside. But this was a God-given chance for you to connect within. You can't go anywhere, and you can't have all those usual stuff. At that time, what would you do? You have been given a God-given, so God gave you a chance to really, really go deep inside and explore and connect to the silence within. That once that happens, all the other things fall off, because then the illusions completely moves. Otherwise, we are always in a kind of linear world and focused on our own pleasures, and we think that this is going to be giving us happiness, and we are still not satisfied. So in this time, awareness is the key. You got to be aware that what are you, how you are, and connect deep within all the time, and just be aware. And activity is not the solution here. Awareness is the solution. Even while you are active, be aware. Like yesterday, there was a call from America and asked me, can you give me something short and sweet to do? I said, just be aware of your talk. Just be aware what you're speaking and what you're acting. That's yoga for you. So that's very simple. I said not very simple. It's not easy to follow because you automatically unconsciousness takes over. So if we just connect to ourselves, we achieve a lot.
Very rightly put, Mohanji. Profound words, those, as usual. Dr. Frawley, you're also a Vedic astrologer. Stars and planets may have an impact on regular individuals. When we talk of yogis or individuals who practice yoga, they are transcending their karma, their impressions, and their tendencies. From what I know since remote ages, astrologers or Jyotish never looked at the birth charts of yogis because they knew that he was on a path of challenging his tendencies of karma. So, does astrology impact yogis or a person in the yogic way of life?
Yes. In fact, we find that many great yogis used astrology and were astrologers. So Paramahansa Yogananda and his guru. I even found recently some of the astrological teachings coming out of Sri Aurobindo. And Jyotish is a Vedanga. It's an integral part of the Vedic system. And it's employed at all the ashrams. And it has several levels of application. Even beyond any personal karma, it's used for timing of all the rituals or all the festival, Krishna Janmashtami, Ram Navami, all these things. What are the favorable times going on? We live in an ocean of celestial influences that are dispensed through the stars and that affect us on a daily basis. We have our Panchanga for looking at that. We cannot avoid that any more than we can avoid the weather or anything else. But there is also our personal Jyotish. And essentially, we as human beings are composed of these or connected to these three things: the body, mind, and consciousness. They have all their different depths and layers. Body and mind are connected to karma and products of time. We live in time and space. Consciousness, Paramatma, is beyond all karma. If you want to go transcend your karma, you can do it at any moment. Just move into that Paramatma state. Not so easy to do because the karmas are there working on the body and the mind at every moment. If we do moment by moment awareness, which is real astrology and real yoga, then we also move beyond time and space. Now, each one of us has a birth chart, this Kundali, that shows us, it's essentially, I call it kind of the DNA of the soul. It is showing your karma. It is showing your samskaras in each particular life. And in that regard, each individual is different. We have our different moments of time, our different dashas, our planetary periods, our transits, our potentials. And it's very important to understand that, just as we need to understand how our DNA works. And each one of us is different. Also, we say doshas, gunas, karmas, but karmas being the most important. And so not everyone is going to be a sannyasin. Not everyone is going to be an artist. Different yogas will be there for different people, different ishta devatas relative to the charts and all of that. So we have to honor the Jyotish, and we have to see what the Jyotish provides. And all the great gurus would use the Jyotish as helping to understand the adhikara, or the potential of the student, and the favorability of the time for certain sadhanas. Some people have their dharmic periods, fifth house, fifth lord, later on in life, or they go to Ketu in the 12th house later on in life, or earlier on in life, we can see those things. So we have to understand how our karma is ripening, and the Jyotish helps us do that. But the Jyotish helps us understand dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Moksha, of course, transcends all of that, but we also have to deal with dharma, artha, karma. We also have a mundane astrology where we look at what is going on in the world. There's been this very powerful Kalasarpa yoga with Ketu near the galactic center and Rahu on the other point. that has been bringing about a lot of strong collective karmas going on for humanity. We also look at the Yugadi chart for that particular purpose, so we can understand a lot about what is going on in the world. Different individuals, different countries will be affected differently, but we have individual karma and collective karma. So it's very important to understand your birth chart or have it read properly so you understand your karmic potentials in life. At the same time, recognize your inner self is beyond karma, but getting to that inner self, you have to move through karma. You have to transcend karma. Karma yoga is a great way to transcend karma. All yoga is a way to transcend karma. Purusha is beyond karma. But unless we do the nirodha of the mind, we are in the karmas of the mind, which connects us to the karmas of the body. If we disidentify with the mind, which is the real practice of yoga, move into that inner awareness, we become everything. We become all time and space. As Upanishads say, the entire universe dwells within you, the Dahara Akasha, the small space within the heart, the Guha. You can go there. You go there in deep sleep, but we need to go there consciously, wakefully, moment by moment. Yes, we can transcend karma, but body and mind will continue to work in the field of karma. Humanity will be in the field of karma. We have to understand how that karma works and know how to transcend it and optimize it in various ways to improve the collective karma and also to help everyone transcend karma.
बहुत सुंदर, बहुत सुंदर. श्लोका.
Satviji, if you can tell us about the 8 limbs of yoga as laid down by Patanjali. And I ask this because many participants come to us saying that, we want to learn yoga. They feel that yoga is something just for physical well-being, like we discussed. And when you look at peace of mind or stress, it is meditation. And you, in one of your videos, gave a very beautiful analogy on how you can't start the construction from the 3rd floor. You have to start from ground zero or even under. So how do you do dhyana or meditation if all the steps below aren't met? Because one has to create the right conditions for dhyana to happen. If you can please tell us about that.
Absolutely. The foundation of yoga is yam and niyam. Without yam and niyam, we can't move up. You can be as flexible, as strong, as acrobatic as you want. But if you haven't actually brought yam and niyam into your life and are really living them, then it's not yoga what you're doing. Then it's just exercise. Then it's just acrobatics. The foundation of a yogic path is yam and niyam, which I'll speak about in a minute. But I wanted just to mention, even before I start talking about it, that they're not hierarchical. We think sometimes that we're moving through the 8 limbs as though we were going from being a mail clerk to being the CEO of a company, as though we were getting higher and higher and leaving behind the lower levels. By the time you become the CEO of a company or the president of a company, you're no longer delivering the mail. You're no longer washing the windows. But as we enter the higher aspects of the 8 limbs, we're not letting go of the foundation. So it's not dhyan or samadhi minus ahimsa and satya. It's not that somehow I've done that, been there, accomplished that. If my life isn't infused with, filled with, rooted in every minute and every moment yam and niyam, then whatever else I do, regardless of what I'm doing with my body and my muscles or my breath, it isn't yoga. And as you said so beautifully, that we speak about all the time, yeah, you can't start building a building on the 3rd floor, but also you don't stop at the 3rd floor. And so we also have the opposite difficulty, which is that a lot of people get to us and they think that's as high as I need to go. Or maybe they bring a little bit of pranayama and they think that's as high as I need to go. But it's really important that they realize that just as it can't be yoga if it's not rooted in non-violence, in truthfulness, in non-stealing, and non-hoarding, and all of the yamaniyam. In the same way, if I'm not moving toward samadhi, if whatever I'm doing with my body, with my muscles, with my bones, with my breath, if it's not being done with the awareness that I'm heading into ultimate union, then again, I'm not allowing myself to really benefit from the fullness of yoga. But let's go back for just a moment, because I want to circle back to yamaniyam, because today so many of the speakers, we've all been speaking about that which is afflicting us today, from corona to environmental destruction, to depression, to suicide, to war, to violence, all of that. Yamaniyam give us a way of living that is both essential to a yogic life. You could think of it as sort of the 10 commandments of a dharmic life, the 10 commandments of a yogic life. But it also forms really the foundation for having peaceful societies. You know, I do a lot of work with the United Nations, and one of the things that I share so frequently there is that even though, yes, yoga has come out of Sanatan Dharma, it has come out of this religious tradition, the teachings of yoga actually are those that if we embodied them, and I don't even mean all of the depth philosophy, I mean even just simply yamaniya, we actually would achieve every one of the Sustainable Development Goals. Billions of dollars are spent all across the world trying to figure out how to ease global hunger, how to deal with our world hunger shortage, our global hunger shortage, how to deal with our global land shortage, our global water shortage, when really what we're suffering from most at the core is a global consciousness shortage. And if we literally adopted just at the beginning, if we said, okay, ahimsa, satya, asteya, apigraha, even just the first 4, even forget brahmacharya for a moment, forget all of the niyam for a moment. If we just took the first 4 of the yam, we literally could address all 30 of our goals. We literally could address all 17 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, all of the indicators that go with them, all of the dozens of goals that we have in this nation, that so many of our countries have. I mean, wherever we're looking at lists of goals, every one of them could be addressed just by beginning to embrace these 8 limbs of yoga. And so that, for me, moving through the world is so core. And then, yes, should you feel inclined, inspired to accept that extraordinary invitation that the universe has given us to wake up, to actually fulfill purpose of our life by knowing ourselves, by knowing God, by experiencing samadhi. Fantastic. Keep going. But even if your only goal is just to be a bit of an asset here on planet Earth, just to make a bit of a difference in the lives of people around you, you literally could do that just in the first few of the yamas given to us by Patanjali.
How beautiful was that? यहाँ मैं आपसे जानना चाहूंगी पुंडरिक जी और मोहन जी, आप दोनों से मेरा ये सवाल, पहले मोहन जी आपसे लूंगी इसका जवाब. Happiness because of external situations is transient and fragmented. हम क्या सिखा रहे हैं अपने बेटों को और अपने बच्चों को? How are we indoctrinating our children on that, about good education, careers, job, wealth is going to make them happy and all of it. Once they do achieve them, that does not seem to be the answer. क्या कहना चाहेंगे आप?
Well, talking about education, we can talk a lot. Actually, we are creating bricks on the wall, right? Most of the education system is creating mediocrity. We are not learning about ourselves. We are learning a skill for the world to handle the world. So that actually detaches a person from themselves. This is the main problem with today's education. And as I fully agree with Sadhviji, who just said that adding value to society, this is the fundamental of Mohanji Foundation as well. If that is not done, the life is not worth it. And how do you add value? You can only give what you have. Share what you have. Maybe you have time to share, maybe you have skills to share, maybe you have love to share. What you have in abundance, that's what you share. So that's the richness which we must cultivate in children today. Means today, now this COVID situation has taught us one important thing. Most of the things which we were dependent on in this world became not essential. So this was actually a reminder, including traveling, including going to malls and shopping blindly. All those things became non-essential. So this was a real big reminder of our actual cause of happiness on or the boundaries. So this is a very good time to restart, reinvent ourselves, and to bring this awareness to the people, which we are doing actually in our own way. But the main thing we say is that what you can deliver to the world today, what you can give to this world today, within your own capacities, within your own boundaries, and just do that, so that you do not fall into the levels of depression which the denials, this so-called denials, basically it's not denial, actually we don't need them, but still the denials gives us, because many people are depressed. And also the social situation has actually changed, that two people living in a house who do not like to see each other are forced to live and see each other. Big calamity, bomb blast in the houses, so those kind of situations where you got to build a purpose which is of much higher in nature, and it should be based on what we give to this world. And when we are fully settled in ourselves, we become like bright lights, huge magnets, and that's the brightness we give to this world. And our consistency and integrity are the right message for the world, not what we talk, but what we are. That is our message. So people are not stupid, they know what we talk about. People are very intelligent. So because our integrity and consistency, and we should believe in what we say, or what we should live by example. We lead by example. That is the right message today. I believe that. I hope this was the question, right, Nidhi ji?
Yes, absolutely. You've answered it so beautifully.
So the message, yeah, because sometimes
Yeah,
I deviate
for
into
our
something else.
children. No. Bang on, you were spot on, sir. मोहन जी,
Yes.
I would like
So
पुंडरिक जी to add to this कि क्या सिखा रहे हैं हम अपने बच्चों को, कि योगा एक प्लेजर है, एक परस्यूट है, और उसके साथ साथ आप अच्छे जॉब्स के लिए भी ट्राई करिए, पहले आप इंट्रोस्पेक्शन करिए. इस तरह की चीज शायद स्कूल्स में, टेक्स्ट बुक्स में भी हमें इंक्लूड करनी पड़ेगी. क्या कहना चाहेंगे आप पुंडरिक जी? योग एंड बच्चों को किस तरह संबोधित करेंगे कि उनका इंटरेस्ट योग में ज्यादा हो?
नीति जी, सबसे महत्वपूर्ण बात है कि अभी मोहन जी भी उस विषय को स्पर्श कर चुके हैं, साध्वी जी ने उसकी फाउंडेशन रख ही दी थी कि सबसे पहले वैल्यू सिस्टम को बहुत एम्पावर करना पड़ेगा एजुकेशन में। एजुकेशन बस मात्र एम्प्लॉयमेंट तक सीमित हो गया है। जो आपके लाइफ के 4 पुरुषार्थ हैं उसमें जो केवल अर्थ है, बस वो उस तक सबसे पहले सीमित हो गया है। There are 4 aspects of life which we call it dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, as Dr. David was also talking about these 4 purusharthas. So, an education should be there to aware you and give you education about all these 4 aspects. पर वो केवल अर्थ तक अभी सीमित है। ये बहुत अनफॉर्चुनेट सिचुएशन है। एक और बात है, इस देश की इतिहास पर भी हमें जाना होगा। लगभग 1200-1300 साल यहाँ बाहर के प्रभाव रहे हैं और उसके बाद भी वर्तमान समय में हम अपनी चेतना के साथ बढ़ रहे हैं। हमारे पास मोहन जी जैसे, साध्वी जी जैसे इतने श्रेष्ठ विचारक इतने 1300-1400 साल के प्रभाव के बाद भी उपस्थित हैं। तो ये भारत की सामर्थ्य को प्रकाशित और व्यवस्थित करती है। नहीं तो 1300 साल में तो आदमी की जेनेटिक्स चेंज हो जाते हैं। तो बहुत बहुत बड़ा प्रभाव पड़ता है। तो एक चीज बस हो गई थी और उसके ऊपर कभी ध्यान नहीं दिया जा रहा था। And as the things were happening, whatever the textbooks has been given, there's so much to manage in this country. This is only, I would say, my father, I am the second generation born in free India. My grandfather was also born in a dependent India. So there's so much to do. So education is the first thing, I would say, जहाँ सबसे पहला काम इस देश में होना चाहिए। Of course, there are many institutions, and even I have 2 daughters, and they are also going to the school. So I could see that there are, from last few years, fortunately, I could see that there are some entry of yoga is there, still onto the level of, I would say, physical exercise. But there are some institutions who are promoting at least Surya Namaskar. And since then, this yoga day has come up. There's awareness is much more spreaded out. But I would say, of course, फाउंडेशन इसमें भी शरीर है, जैसे यम नियम है वो भी प्रारंभिक फाउंडेशन है। तो शरीर का जब स्वास्थ्य होगा तभी आप मन को और फिर अपने इंटेलेक्ट को और अपनी बुद्धि को, अपनी कॉन्शियसनेस को, सबको कंट्रोल कर पाएंगे। तो आई वुड से कि अगर एजुकेशन के साथ डिफरेंट टेक्निक्स बताई जाती हैं आज मॉडर्न एजुकेशन में कि जैसे इस प्रेजेंटेशन के द्वारा आप उस इंटीग्रेटेड सब्जेक्ट को समझ सकते हो, या इस फॉर्मूला के द्वारा आप उस चीज को एक्सप्रेस कर सकते हो। सिमिलरली आई वुड से योगा शुड बी प्रेजेंटेड इन सच अ वे दैट इफ वी आस्क all the students before their examinations, if we ask them to do a bit of a meditation, so I think they are much more expressive in what they want to write. So similar, very very simply I would say, because अभी सीधी समाधि की बात कर देंगे तो बच्चा भाग जाएगा स्कूल से। तो बहुत 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 सहज भाव में उनके साथ अगर जोड़ दिया जाएगा कि if you just like we pray in the morning, every school has their prayers, so before coming to an examination, if just one small thing can be added, maybe by a few institutions. I tried to do it. I told a few institutions, and they are trying to practice it, that when they call their students, especially 6th standard or 8th standard, and when they ask them to start their examination, before that they ask them to do a bit of a meditation just to calm their head, and just to be easy, whatever they would like to express. There's so much pressure they have, and then the things become a little easy, I would say, with that. So these are simple things which, just like these, if we inculcate some of these practices with our regular education, then I think उसका taste लगने लग जाएगा, and then अगर taste लगना शुरू हो जाए, then definitely it can take you to the unlimited levels, and I would say to dharana, and then to samadhi, of course, to I would say beyond your body.
and break karma. I'd like to thank you, Sadhvi Bhagwati ji. I just got a message that you have to leave. बहुत धन्यवाद यहाँ आने के लिए, अपनी मैसेज शेयर करने के लिए. Any last thing you'd like to say while leaving? Please do that. We will be honored once again on this IDY celebration. Thank you so much once again for joining us.
It's been really a beautiful joy and a beautiful honor, and I'm so sorry I have to get off, but we're actually hosting an international yoga day event that's starting in just a few minutes, so the tech team has to switch everything over.
Yes,
But
yes.
just lastly, I wanted to say it was so beautiful listening to how Pundarikji was talking about the importance with education, because that really is what we need today. Too much of our education, both in the families as well as in the schools, is rooted on fitting children in to our mold, is rooted in actually minimizing and squashing their own blossoming of self. And I think that if we can bring the teachings of yoga into a system of education in which children are really being given the awareness that who they are is divine. It's not about who they are is their number in the class or is the grade they got on the exam, that their worthiness is not rooted in what ranking they have, but actually that their worthiness is rooted in the fact that they are divine. And yes, of course, they must study sincerely and do the best they can, but not because it determines who they are, so that we don't end up with children who move through the world believing that they are the grades they get, or they are how much they make, or they are their position, or they are their career, and really bring about a system with youth of connecting them to themselves, to their heart, connecting them to love and truth, such that out of that soil, they actually blossom with courage to really become tools in the hands of the divine. And that's going to give them skills that I think are so much more important than all of the math and science and whatever we're trying to drill into their brains. If we actually just give them the courage to actually channel the flow of the divine through them, they're going to bring about a today and a tomorrow of light, of oneness, of love, of truth, and of sustainability. So thank you so much for what you're doing in education, and thank you so much to all of you, and so much love and deep, deep respects to all of you, and a beautiful, happy International Yoga Day.
Many thanks for joining us, Sadhvi Bhagwati. Thank you so much. Privileged. Next question to Dr. Frawley. Yeah, Shloka.
By extension, this is the topic on children and yoga. The ego loves rationalization, it loves intellectualization, being loved, recognized, respected. Everyone is power hungry. They want to get into the civil services, they want to get into niche professions because it is about power, it is about recognition. And this is so unfortunate because we live in a knowledge economy which is fostering precisely this. There is no cultivation of intuition, there is no cultivation of insight. Everything is so logic and intellect driven. So in our country, children are lured into studying subjects like the sciences or the engineering because of these reasons. Even in the utilitarian world outside, these become very lucrative. However, our traditional sciences like Ayurveda, Siddha, classical yoga, dance, martial arts, they're considered to be fringe careers in society and are unfortunately dying a slow death. So if you can talk about the importance of these fields to the parents who are watching this episode today.
Namaste. Yes, I want to bring up a kind of a more integral point. I do have to leave shortly also. I have a program with the Saudi Arabia Yoga Day. But the important thing I would like to bring up for education is the most important thing in education for children is developing the power of attention, dharana shakti, power of attention, awareness. We've created a society where we're cultivating millisecond awareness, where the mind is constantly distracted and disturbed. We need to have that attention, and that is what yoga teaches us. Unless we have a power of attention, it's like your mind has no your body has no muscular power. The mind has no muscular power. You can't hold an idea. You can't learn anything. You can't understand anything deeply. So we must teach children to cultivate that flame of attention, that deeper agni, the buddhi. It's not just a question of information. It's not just a question of being exposed to things. It's a question of cultivating an inner ability, a receptivity that goes beyond mere words, names, forms, numbers, tests, that allows us to be present, that allows us to give full attention to what we do. If we can give full attention to what we do, then we can succeed in everything. Then we can learn everything. So let us bring that yogic dimension of not simply meditation, but concentration, dharana, focus, one-pointed mind, and that if the whole society has that, the world will be transformed. So thank you again for inviting me to this wonderful event. I was most pleased with the level of discussion by all these speakers. Very deep secrets of yoga are there. So let us share that with everyone. Let us take this message forward through International Yoga Day to all the communities, to the children, and to every aspect of life. Let all life be yoga, all life be sadhana, and let us be aware of yoga at every moment as our unity with all. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Thank you so much. Many thanks for joining us, Dr. Frawley. Honored, indebted to you for your presence and for teaching us that every adversity is indeed a stepping stone. Thank you so much for joining us. Namaste.
Nidhi ji, we're almost out of time. I think we have to
Yes.
go up.
In 60 seconds, I would like to ask you, पुंडरिक जी, चलते चलते, और आपसे भी मोहन जी, कि क्या मैसेज है आपकी पोस्ट पैंडेमिक, जैसे 2021 में हम किस तरह देखते हैं आत्मनिर्भर भारत को, उसे हम योग से कैसे एक आत्मनिर्भर भारत बना सकते हैं, क्योंकि जैसे हम बात कर रहे हैं, माननीय प्रधानमंत्री ने ही ये योग दिवस को इतनी महत्वता दी कि आज सारे विश्व में ये अंतरराष्ट्रीय योग दिवस मनाया जा रहा है. पुंडरिक जी, पहले आप.
मैं यही कहूंगा छोटे एक ही शब्द में कि प्रधानमंत्री जी को सबसे पहले तो धन्यवाद. ऑफ कोर्स उनकी वजह से वो स्वयं भी एक योगी हैं, और जैसा मैंने सुना है कि नित्य सुबह वो कुछ देर अपने समय के अनुसार जिस भी स्तर पर योग का अभ्यास अवश्य करते हैं. और योग एक इस देश से निकला हुआ पूरे विश्व के लिए एक अद्भुत उपहार है. उसकी रिलीजन वर्ड एक अंग्रेजी का बेस्ड शब्द है. धर्म शब्द की परिभाषा बहुत अलग होती है. धर्म का मतलब होता है धार्यतेति धर्म, आप जिसे धारण करते हैं और जो आपको धारण करता है वो धर्म है. पर यहाँ पर जो एज आई ऑलवेज थिंक दैट ये तो लैंड ऑफ सीकर्स है. तो जब सीकर्स ने कुछ सीख किया, उसके लिए जो रास्ता खोजा वही योग था, और उसके डिफरेंट एस्पेक्ट्स बनाए. प्रधानमंत्री जी ने आत्मनिर्भर शब्द दिया, तो आपके प्रश्न पर मैं इतना ही जोड़ूंगा कि आत्मनिर्भरता से शुरू हुई और आत्मा पर निर्भर हुई है.
इतना सुंदर. और मोहन जी, आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे इसी को ऐड करते हुए? क्या देखते हैं आप, किस तरह मनाया जाएगा अगला योग दिवस और उससे अगला? व्हाट इज योर विजन?
First of all, I agree with Pundarik ji. So I'm not repeating what it is. I think one of the best thing happened to India, Bharat, is the Yoga Day. Yoga Day is a very, very substantial thing, and it's very, very important for our stability. And also like that, the other things like Vastu, Ayurveda, and all the other things as well. But yoga has actually a big significance. For the future, from this point where we're standing towards future, two things are very important. One is extreme flexibility. because we have no idea what's coming ahead. Even if you are the greatest of astrologer, but sometimes you do not know what's ahead, because this kind of a scenario nobody expected. So we are forced to be flexible. So flexibility is number one, and self-acceptance is another. That means we should not blame ourselves. We should not blame the society. This is collective consciousness which has created this pandemic all over the world. All the people are indoors. I mean, they are all feeling the same thing, stifling times. So this time, self-acceptance is very important. Accept yourself with all the weaknesses, strengths, and stuff. Plus, accept the society and how it moves, and just remain flexible. That is what yoga, flexibility, it all has got great relevance. And thank you for inviting me before I close. And thanks for this program.
Thank you so much for your wisdom and your insights. We are truly overwhelmed today to have with us such pearls of wisdom. Our deepest and warmest gratitude goes out to all of you, to our partners, Amway, for making this session in yoga and IDY20 see the light of day. A special shout out to Union and Red Carpet Entertainers, Nehru Center, the High Commission of India, Ministry of Ayush, FSSAI, Eat Right Foundation. This program was powered by by Ozone Organic Advantage and by the INO. Thank you so much for supporting us. To catch more wisdom-packed knowledge, you may visit the social media pages flashing on the screen. Please do share this video as widely and as much as possible. To be part of such initiatives, please follow the pages that are being flashing on your screens. Also, the next session is Insights, Eat Right, supported by Ministry of Ayush and FSSAI. Let's learn more insights about food naturopathy with the masters at 7 p.m. IST. Please be with us through these series. We shall see you in the next segment. We leave you now with a video by our title sponsors, Amway. Do watch it. It's really good. Thank you. Namaste.
अपने पैशन के लिए तो जीते हैं सब. So do I.
तारों का रुख करो तो चांद भी मिल जाता है.
भले पोल्यूशन हो या गर्मी,
ऊंचे हो हौसले हर मुकाम मिल जाता है.
मुझे तो काम पे पहुंचना ही है, मौसम चाहे जैसा भी हो. बीमार पड़ना is not a choice.
दिल में दबे जज्बे को थोड़ी सी,
क्योंकि कुछ बच्चे ना भी आए तो फिर भी चलेगा, पर अगर टीचर ना आ पाए तो क्लास ही नहीं होगी.
आँखों में कैद हर सपना खिल जाता है.
इसलिए मैं भरोसा करती हूँ न्यूट्रीलाइट तुलसी पे. इसकी एक टैबलेट में है 100 तुलसी लीव्स के एक्सट्रैक्ट. तुलसी हर्ब सपोर्ट करे इम्यूनिटी को, जो बीमारियों को दूर रखने में मदद कर सके. न्यूट्रीलाइट तुलसी, इम्यूनिटी से ही तो लाइफ रुकेगी नहीं.